Hi everyone, this podcast is sponsored once again by the fabulous people at Robots Ruin My Life. Use the code RoboCast at checkout for 25% off your order. There's not long left until that discount code runs out, so make the most of it while you still can. We're also going to be doing a giveaway this week with lots of different items from Robots Ruin My Life, such as battle damage parts from Starchild and other merch aside from that, including Hexbugs and other items which you can purchase on the store. So keep your eyes open for that. In this podcast, you may notice a few technical issues with regard to a little bit of glitchiness in the background. Zoom was having an off day. I'm really sorry about that, but it's pretty good content. Enjoy the podcast.
Hi, my name is Tim Bouwens. I'm from Team Ominous, and you're listening to the RoboCast. RoboCast, right?
Hello everyone, my name is SamElliot64 and welcome back to the RoboCast with myself, Steve the AmericanKilljoy, and DavidofSmeg, who is kindly filling in for Jevon while he has his dinner, apparently.
Yeah.
Joining us this week, as you would have heard from the intro, is the wonderful Tim Bouwens, and the biggest rock star in all of BattleBots.
According to someone.
If you know, you know. If you don't, then I'm sure you can ask him. We'll tell you one day. Tim, how are you, my friend? It's been a minute since I've actually seen you in person. Last time we saw each other was Christmas, right? It was the boat.
It was on the boat, wasn't it? We had fun on the boat.
BattleBots, yeah.
BattleBots. You doing good?
Good. Just returned from a event in Germany. So
how did you get
tired.
on? Yeah, how did you get on?
I think it won first place, third place, and fourth place out of 15 robots. So
pretty good going. Pretty good. I suppose we could probably turn our attention to BattleBots. Let's start off
just for a bit.
Yeah, just for a little bit.
A small segment of the podcast.
Yeah.
There was a shake of the head, but I mean, let's start with your record for the season. Let's go to that, which to date looks a little bit like this: Claw Viper, Shred It Bro, and Switchback, with losses to Switchback and Claw Viper win against Shred It Bro. Out of 10, how would you assess your season? What would you give it as a grade?
The thing is, it's always been like tiny stuff that went wrong in the robot. So it's like either a controller getting a nick during one of the hits or some component shifting slightly. So it's out of the expectations we had, it's like 7, 8 out of 9 out of 10. But yeah, going 2-0 of 2-1 or 1-2. 1-2, yeah.
Yeah, that's the
numbers.
I mean, to be fair, if we look at the fights as a whole, like Claw Viper is on an absolute tear this season, and there's no disgrace to lose to them. I mean, the way that they dismantled Ribot, I think that must have felt a little bit more vindicating for you. That
we were expecting like last year's Claw Viper or the year before. It's like they drive against the wall and they break or stop moving. They don't.
No, no, they don't.
Not this time.
So Claw Viper was the only fight of the three we were happy to lose because it was such a good fight and we lasted so long. And the other fights we could have won easily or more easily. I think the whole stream make on Switchback breaking.
I mean, I remember at the start of the season, we obviously mentioned we wanted to attack with you at some point this season, and initially we kind of earmarked the Switchback fight, and like the way that it happened, I felt I felt like we couldn't do it because you had that fight.
Yeah.
In the palm of your hand, you ripped the wedge off of.
You were winning until you weren't.
Yeah,
pretty much.
I think even Greg would say they kind of fell ass backwards into victory, in a way.
Yep.
But sometimes it'd be like that. Sometimes you're on the back foot for the entire fight, and then you end up taking it, because you survived the longer.
Yeah. A lot of fights I saw this weekend that the same. Just stay mobile, stay moving, and you probably win. No, it was the whole realization that the streamer didn't work was it was horrible. It was it's like component we thought would never fail. It was too slow, we knew. But not working was not part of the whole idea of how the fight should happen. And we were doing so great. The first hit, we were like, okay, this is the ominous we were supposed to show. And even the second fight is like, we knew like the hit against Shredded Bro is that if we hit really hard, because the weight balance is a little bit forward, we'll just go tumble. It's okay. We get back up. It's fine. And then we didn't.
Well, I mean, I have to ask, because I know I've mentioned this to a few people, and I think indeed yourself at one point, like, ultimately, how does it feel to when something, what happens when you have that fight with Shredded Bro? Okay, obviously, let's not pretend it wasn't a good fight. It wasn't a good fight.
No.
But the fact that they somehow highlighted a fight in a season where they're not highlighting fights, I mean, I have to ask, from a personal point of view, how does that feel? Because I was annoyed for you on behalf.
You got like side boxed,
right?
It was an absolute Mike Wazowski of it.
It really was.
It's we saw the little boxes appear and the face of, I think it was Tom. That's like, the next fight. Just wait.
Did you have any like inclination that was going to happen at all? Really? No. Wow. Okay.
So the funniest thing is we were preparing for the sort of setback we got from the appeal of Shredded Bro. It's like we were like, okay, because in the whole chronological time frame, it was the first appeal.
It was, yeah.
So everybody was totally unaware that there was an appeal. They didn't have any process. They had the rule set, but not the how are we going to handle this? How are we going to film it in the pit? So we were the first.
Yeah.
I was expecting more of that and less of the here's Monsoon.
Honestly, I remember seeing it at the time, and I thought they've done you so dirty. Again, it wasn't a good fight. Again, I'm not going to exaggerate.
Event organizers and anybody who's ever been to an event, there are absolutely fights like this that just, it's very hard to keep eyes. But then again, you got a bunch of people sitting around, but you also have people with BattleBots watching TV screens around the world, trying to keep their eyes stuck to the screen and having them not, click, oh, what was on the last channel I was watching? It's like, I understand, like, they're trying to, like, keep people in, but it doesn't make it less dirty.
It's still not the best move, is it?
Yeah.
They know the match will last 3 minutes, so skip.
Yeah. Where's my fast forward button?
It is unfortunate. It is definitely unfortunate.
Oh.
Well, enough of the sadder times of the season. Let's move on to some listener questions before we get on to the fights for the episode. So let's start off with, I'm going to butcher this name. I'm really sorry. Peter Sade, we'll go with that, on Facebook, asks, what was the original inspiration for Ominous?
The original inspiration for Ominous, I wouldn't say an inspiration, but I just wanted to build something different. Because we built like Reality in 2018, it was doing okay, better than Ominous.
They finished your season 2 and 2, right?
So far,
if I recall correctly, Reality was
3 and 2.
3 and 2.
Also was one against Hypershock lost against himself.
Oh, that's true.
It was a general season though, so that's fine.
Yeah,
that's the season of the suckless, I guess.
Yeah.
So I wanted to build something different. I remember seeing I think it was a Mechanism or a omnidirectional drive at Robot Wars in 2016-15.
I think that was Sweeney Todd.
The underweight king.
that thing was so underweight. It was like 50 kilos or something.
Yeah, it was like 45 kilos, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So silly.
So I saw it moving around the arena. I was like, okay, this is cool. I built some like Mechanism drive robots for work, like a Congress piece for like public interaction. So I built like a black and blue team or black and red team. One had a lifter and one had like the dissector hammers.
Oh, nice.
That's right after my heart.
Yeah.
So those were like in 2000, let's say 2013.
Mhm.
So a couple of years ago.
Bit.
And then I remember seeing an old GeoCities website of an American robot called Skittlebrow, which is also a three-wheeled omnidirectional hub motor drum robot.
Wow.
Back in 2007. So that was.
Steve is frantically typing there, trying to find that
Yeah.
robot, isn't he?
Mhm. I try to be the one that knows everything. Well, I mean, when we go back to BattleBots kind of robots, like even as far back as season 5.0, you had Alcoholic Stepfather.
Yeah.
Bots like that kind of twisted the meta of you don't have to just build a 4-wheel drive bot or a 2-wheel drive bot, 6-wheel drive track bot. Something that drives like a tank. You could drive something that drives like those do.
Like Ominous.
Yeah.
I remember seeing the Alcoholic Stepfather against, I think it was the precursor of Tombstone,
Mm-hmm.
but then in the super heavyweight class.
Mm-hmm.
And that was okay, Alcoholic Stepfather has a really thick titanium wedge.
Mm-hmm.
He needed it. But then again, it's okay, if you have a push bot, I think Alcoholic Stepfather had a flamethrower.
Yeah, had a flamethrower, and the old Comedy Central days actually had dissector hammers that would
nice.
swing and hit. So, but it was it's just a different way, to attack your opponent. Where instead of them having to worry about you going head on or back on, that you could technically sidestep into them, and have them not expect that kind of an attack.
Yeah. So one of the advantages, and I think we saw it during our little stint in Portsmouth.
Mm-hmm.
Is you can go so hard sideways, just turning around them. I think we went against Zadkiel or.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Zadkiel.
And we were worried because it was okay, we brought it along just to test, and then we got a big overhead spinning.
Demon. It is a scary. It's like a big Billy, but kind of not, right? It's a bit weird. Yeah.
And the nicest part, we fit just under it. And the only thing he could hit was our disc. So, yeah, perfect.
I remember we kind of stood there while you were doing that first fight. Was that the first time Ominous has fought ever?
Yeah.
And you give him a good smack, and Zadkiel just goes flying over the other side of the arena. It was wonderful. There was a big shout from us all. I think it was great to watch.
That was a fun one. And it's just seeing it moving is and driving it is perfect. And then the first fight you have is against something like Glove Viper, and you go, okay, that's faster. Yeah.
Just a bit.
That's just a tiny bit. That's we have the same top speed. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Right?
Yeah. The downforce is such an advantage on that robot.
Yeah. All the magnets and that.
Yeah. And we learned that very quickly. Very, very quickly this year.
And we were okay. We even put on some provisions to put on magnets, and we're okay, you can put on magnets, but our weapon makes a nice tiny piece of steel chunks, and they fit under the robot perfectly. Mm-hmm. And we kind of need our drive to work.
Yeah, you don't want to high center yourself.
No.
Yeah, no.
But then I saw because the last time I went to BattleBots was 2018, and the whole fork meta wasn't a thing. Mm-hmm. We built Ominous, and then the whole fork meta wasn't a thing because it was 2020. Mm-hmm. And I went to Endgame, and I looked underneath the robot, and I saw the nice bristle mechanism they have to keep away all the steel parts from the magnets, and I was yeah, next year.
Taking notes.
Next year.
Absolutely.
I have to, obviously you've kind of mentioned there, but the robot was built in 2020. I know we've asked a few teams this before, but obviously you were one of the teams where your robot was in a crate in Las Vegas, and you guys were stuck over in Europe and couldn't go.
Yeah,
I have to ask as well, what was that like? Because I having spoken to the Monsoon team, who we're obviously very good friends with and live very locally, they were properly broken by it. They were gutted. Was it the same for you as well?
Well, the thing is, we built the robot in 2020, and it's 2020. Okay, we were building it in March, still building it in March. Last weekend, we were still building it, and then we got the call. Okay, it's going to be postponed. Mm-hmm. maybe end of the year. We don't know. And then there was the not so World Championships 6, I guess, or 5.
Yeah,
5. Yeah.
And then we're like, okay, next year we're going to do it next year, and then the whole okay, we'll actually finish the second robot because we didn't have time in 2020 to finish the second robot. We finished the second robot, put it in the crate, send it to Las Vegas. Had all the arrangements for the hotel, all the arrangements for the flights, even a car rental, etc. And we were just waiting on the visa or the knee exemption. And I think we canceled it. We set our alarm clock for the flights on Friday. And we still had no reply from the embassy. So we canceled our flights.
Oh, really? So
the hour we're supposed to leave for the airport.
Yeah.
Wow. So you guys cancelled it before you'd even heard back.
Yeah. Because it was getting too close.
I mean, that's
No,
absolutely.
it's like if we're not gonna drive to the airport and find out we're not flying anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
And we had to cancel it like a couple of hours before. And then we spoke to Greg, and he said, "Yeah, okay. If you don't hear anything back on Wednesday, you're not gonna be able to qualify for the top 32. So no point of showing up." And we're just waiting, trying everything, even calling like the Dutch embassy if they could arrange something, but no.
No, it just wasn't possible.
And then seeing all the like the pit tour from Scorpios with our crate, and getting pictures from Luke and from Copperhead with the sad face next to our crate, and like, no.
It must feel like, obviously, it's very disheartening that you couldn't go, but ultimately, it must have been nice knowing that everyone wanted you there, like as soon as possible, right? Like, at least that's something.
That's the tight knit family aspect. Like, it's just a bunch of relatives getting together and breaking each other's toys, and it's lovely.
Like 90% of the reaction we got, like the first 2 days we went to the Vegas, was like, I'm gonna finally see the robot, because I've been staring at the crate last year for like the whole competition.
Wondering what is in there. We don't know.
Could be anything.
I don't know. It just says ominous.
It's very ominous. What's going on?
It's very ominous.
Which is an empty crate. There was no robot.
Schrodinger's BattleBot box.
Yeah.
It's actually Ronin inside there the entire time. You know, he left some holes, but it was
some
okay.
illegal Dutchman.
Steve, do you want to grab the next listener question?
Yes, I will. So we had several people ask this question, but thank you all for sending this in. But why run a hub motor for the primary weapon, and what are the advantages of running a hub motor versus a traditional belt-driven or gear-driven weapon?
Is my internet connection is unstable.
You're good.
Oh no, he's not. He's got again. Okay, we're back.
Yeah, we're back. The first end weight spinner I built was a geared one. And since then, I've only built hub motors. So it's the part I know.
Fair enough.
And one of the main advantages is that you don't have to have any room for gearing systems or motors, or it's all very compact.
Yeah. I think of other robots you built. Like I even think, back with BattleBots with Wayo, very compact, just that one weapon spinner around the front. You have this really tight packed machine with this big old weapon motor down the middle.
Sorry, I'm back.
That's okay. Okay,
it's all good. Dude. It's all good.
So yeah, no, I was bringing up Wayo for BattleBots and that compact design and the motor in the middle, and it's simplistic in its complexity.
I just measured it like yesterday, and it was like 1.4 kilograms. So I was like, okay, just 40 grams for no work.
There you go.
I mean, we are waiting for Wayo to come back in the UK.
Oh, goodness me, aren't we all? I've never.
Go on. I'm designing a new version.
Oh,
which is
okay, okay. It is so exciting.
As a slightly bigger stator.
Yes.
Nice.
Oh my goodness.
No.
Yes, hub motors are cool, and anything
hub motors are
around
really cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
that's
don't
really
don't do it.
It shouldn't be attempted without great care, or just
leave it
shouldn't
to
be
professionals
attempted.
or
No,
experienced amateurs.
Because you need it's like you need a certain specific, which also allows for a certain kilowatt or torque range. So it's a very, very specific kind of motor you need for something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And the one we got to fit had a slightly larger diameter than the bearings we used, so we had to use like a clamshell outer casing.
Wow.
And we had some problems with that one during Portsmouth because they were mushrooming it.
Mm-hmm.
And the fight against Switchback, we broke one side in 3 pieces.
Oh.
Brutal.
Yeah. So
it's a mushroom you can share with everybody.
Gave it to them. Yeah, exactly. So we still have 2 left.
Again, much like pineapple, I don't like mushrooms either.
Neither do I, honestly. I always used to give them to my sister. Like whenever we used to get them.
Here, aren't I?
Like
whenever we get Chinese and like the stir fries, I'd always be like,
they're like slugs. I just don't like them.
I don't know. Depends. You got like
it's a texture thing, right?
Maybe
It's a texture thing.
Anytime I've ever gotten a mushroom, it's like always like mush. But if you grilled them or something like that, like portobellos.
I'm just discovering, like, I'm the human dustbin of the RoboCast. It seems I'll eat anything. This is an amazing reality shock,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We'll get on to that later.
It's a different robot,
yeah. Well, yeah, go on, David.
So Living Murphy's Law on Discord asks, what were the main differences between competing in Extreme Robots and BattleBots?
Competing at Extreme Robots is like the fighting schedule of being in the finals of BattleBots. So at Extreme Robots, we had 3 fights in 1 day.
Mm-hmm.
I think at BattleBots, we had 3 fights in 1 week. So it's a lot different.
It's a different skill set, definitely.
Yeah. So it's and also the whole Extreme Robots is more of a show driven instead of a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a live audience, which is like the source of all the excitement instead of we'll tape it and we'll show it on TV later. So it's a more direct, and also the whole VIP pit tour with all the audience from Extreme Robots. That's so fun. Mm-hmm. And we never do those things here in the Netherlands, but we should. Because it's really nice, and especially if there are people going like, I think this is piece of your robot, because they had like the tour of the arena.
Yeah.
And as soon as they found something like fluorescent yellow, they were like,
yeah, that was you.
This is yours.
I've been here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's certainly, like, as you said, it's definitely a lot more geared into like a lot of pit practice. Obviously, the level of carnage you take at BattleBots is very different because the energy there is so different.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the turnaround at Extreme Robots is crazy because, as you said, you have 3, sometimes more fights a day, and sometimes 2 or 3 fights a session. It is really intense, and it certainly sharpens you up for things like BattleBots where time is of the essence.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the whole schedule known in advance at BattleBots help with the being it more relaxed than like I could remember in 2018, because then it's like, okay, we have to fight tomorrow or the day after, but we have no idea who against. What do we do to prepare? And this year was completely different because we knew we were going to fight Switchback, we knew we were going to fight Shatter, and we knew we were going to fight Shatter like in the last session. So we could spend the whole week ordering new parts and having Lincoln Electric weld up the nice domed front end. So it was more relaxed and more pleasant to be there.
Not that we don't like extreme robots.
That has genuinely been something we've heard all season from every team we've interviewed. Like the schedule
honestly.
thing has just been like a revelation for so many people, right?
Yeah. A lot of lessons have been learned on that.
Definitely
brings a real sport feel to it, and I feel like that's been a common sentiment. You know, it's a nice step. There've been a lot of quality of life changes for this series that I think we've seen kind of the effects of them, and I think there's been a lot of very good changes that have, you know, kind of given teams a little bit of peace of mind, where like you don't have like have to be up late. And we were talking about with Greg, where you don't have to be like at 1 a.m. and be like, oh my god, a fight. I have to be ready to go, and like you're losing sleep over it, and it's, you know, you don't want to have to stress your talent out like that, because I mean they got to be good on camera. You got to be good on camera too, but you also don't want to be like burn out, you know. You know, trying to plan
but
for
also
every
the thing is, we had a team of two. At the end, 3 people. So we knew in advance who we're going to fight and what we're going to do to prepare it, and there was no like really rush, because we cannot rush. It's like we have 2 people.
Yeah,
I'm away like 90% of the time doing.
Yeah, you have other teams who've got teams of 10 and things like that. So yeah.
Some teams like bring their whole family. It's crazy. You see them on
No,
screen.
but it's also like if you walk past like the Sawblaze team.
Yes,
it's like you can spot Jameson there, but at 90% of the time his team is working on the robot and he's off doing interviews. So it's very different being a 2-man team than bringing like 8 people, because you do have to do everything yourself.
Absolutely.
Yes. So having that little peace of mind of knowing the schedule was really nice.
Absolutely. We have had quite a lot of questions actually about reality as well.
Yes.
Darren Catalane asked 2 questions. First question being, what has been the cause of the weapon issues affecting Ominous this season? And the other question is, whatever happened to reality?
The cause of the weapon issues
is it like the flavor of the day? Is it the Vesk? Or did you run Vesk?
No, it's not Vesk. It's an MGM controller.
Okay.
But the cause is we originally designed it for like the 250-63, which is a really small one. We still had from reality, and we were getting like during testing, every spin up we're getting errors and we'd have to reset, etc. And more errors, more reset. And then we spoke to the guys at MGM and they said, yeah, you have to get a bigger controller because it's just you're asking too much of the little controller. So we got a bigger controller and it would fit, like barely. I think there was like a 1 centimeter gap between the top and the bottom and the sides of MGM with the frame. So there was limited amount of padding possible. So we had some problems with that. So mounting and the fact that it's a big freaking hub motor and we couldn't run it censored. Because one of the quirks of the MGM is that it has to do the sensor detection at 100% RPM.
And the other question was
within a certain set of seconds.
Yeah.
And we could never reach that certain set of seconds because it's 22 kilos spinning up.
Yes. It's a lot of stuff to move.
So we had to. So one of the issues we had is we had to run it sensorless. Like
which
back
has
in
its
the
own
day
complications.
With reality.
Yeah.
So it would spin up slowly and then it would catch on and then it would go. But that was like I think the main issue, apart from like pure mechanical damage. That's it. And if it's spun up, it would spin up to like max RPM within. I think we set it down to 4 seconds.
Not bad.
No, not at all.
So like 4 seconds, 7,000 RPM. So
especially with a bot that can sidestep. You can kind of get out of your way and give yourself time to spin up. You don't have to worry. Hopefully, not worry so much about a box rush. But
exactly.
Give yourself time.
Just keep the front pointed toward the enemy and spin up.
Yep,
that's it.
I mean, that's the true advantage of an Omnibot strafing.
Exactly. So we can always point, and once up to speed is like 55 kilojoules. So it's enough.
I would think so.
It'll do the job. It'll do the
a little
job.
bit too much.
Good thing we got a nice big
enough.
polycarb box to protect us from that.
Yeah.
And the other question was, what happened to reality?
But reality,
is it in a shed somewhere
picking up
dust?
I think Lars spotted.
Or is it? Oh, okay.
No, Lars spotted.
Man,
that guy's living room, mate. Honestly, I've sitting there. He's got a lot of.
He needs to open a museum.
He
I
does.
swear.
He does.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
I think he could charge.
I think he's planning on.
That's an idea.
Good.
You could charge rent or charge entry.
No, but what happened to reality? I think the year after Jeroen, or one of the Jeroens, went to Petunia.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So maybe more of a, not the fact that you didn't want to go on with the design. It's just like the team kind of went their separate ways, and
it's like
different ideas.
And like the main idea of reality was to participate.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a bucket list check.
Yeah.
And I was always like, okay, but what can we do after reality?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what can we do to improve it? Can we improve it, or does it have to be the mythical beast that we'll never talk about again?
Yeah,
I don't know. So it has been at the attic of a teammate for a couple of years, and then Lars bought it. So,
Are there design philosophies that are shared between Ominous and reality, or is Ominous just a clean cut away from reality?
I think it's a clean cut.
Okay, yeah, because I'm kind of curious, because I know there's teams that have come back with other bots where I know that we talked with Anna from Ripperoni about how Ripperoni is a clean cut from Uppercut, like it's not the same robot at all. So it's interesting.
But the design of reality was made by Dennis, and Dennis had Equinox.
Yes.
Which is like tiny reality, or I think the working title for reality was Mequinox or Meganox or like that for a couple of years. So he was the main designer of reality. And we had some input from all the team members, and I did some of the front armor pieces, the color scheme. But also a lot of old true tested technology, or at least we thought it would be old true tested technology, because we're using the Bosch 750 motors in the reality.
Bringing them back out.
Old school robot wars.
Wow, that's a proper throwback. That is.
So yeah, using like sidewinders to control it. So it's like
wow,
old school. But the problem we had is that we were basing it on a tested two-wheel drive setup, like Tough as Nails, Gravity. Those were like the robots our team members built. They knew it would work. But then we built a four-wheel drive robot, and then turning would be a lot more difficult. And I think the first 5 minutes we put it in the test box at BattleBots, the Sidewinder let out the magic smoke.
Oh no.
And I think we spent next to the week changing the gear ratio, making new rear wheels with like a harder shore, like 990 shore instead of the 60 shore, just to make sure it doesn't brown out, doesn't let out the magic smoke.
Interesting.
Wow.
So there was a lot of room for improvement and not the budget to do it. So
sacrifice a little bit of traction so that like it doesn't make your motors work so hard.
And I think at the end
they smoke.
we smoked every sidewinder we had in our team, and we borrowed speed controllers from Petunia, and then we noticed that like at 10S the 5-volt the BEC started overheating, so we could drive around 4 minutes. So that's what happened during the dogfight. And we're like,
yeah. Well, it's, these BattleBots teams, these keep these companies in business. You always give them business. Always gotta, even if you burn out all their stuff, they know they got a repeat customer.
Yeah. And
anyway,
one of the main problems we had is we went with reality like fresh out of Robot Wars. We just said Robot Wars are tough as nails. We built reality. We came there. We put it on the table, and then we saw like 3 identical robots from Donald Hudson sitting next to each other, and we had okay, we have one.
What have I got myself into?
Yeah. And that was like back in 2018 when there wasn't too many of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
This is a different sport.
Definitely.
Yeah, capitalism is creeping its way into BattleBots a bit, where like it's the more you spend, sometimes well, I don't know, you don't have more chance of winning, but it just it helps.
Definitely.
But
yeah,
still need somebody smart behind the sticks
during the competition. Yeah, especially during the competition, if you take damage, it's easier to repair something when you have a fully functioning robot ready. Instead of, okay, this has to work.
You're not like sweating bullets like,
our fight is like 5 minutes.
I'm running out of time. I gotta get this working.
Exactly.
I think we'll miss the next question out, Steve. We'll just go on to the last of the list of questions for before the fight.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so SR2448 on YouTube. Was Reality ever offered a place in the Last Chance Rumble in 2018, given its record? Or was it just was the robot to beat by then, or were you not asked? Do you remember?
I remember Greg coming up to us a couple of times for the Desperado tournament.
Oh, wow.
Because there was a thing back then. And he was like, yeah, you should really think about the Desperado tournament. I was like, yeah. We don't have spares. And the whole philosophy of the Desperado tournament is, you have 5 fights, 1 day or 2 days. At the end, and it's like the one with the most spares wins.
As Lockjaw did in that case.
As Lockjaw did, because he had 3. Yeah, perfect. And we're like, and we were still hoping to get like a better record, but on hindsight, with looking at the competition, we had like Duck, Mohawk,
Sawblaze, I think, didn't you?
Yeah.
So Sawblaze, I think we at least made the web page top banner with the nice sparky bits of the.
I'm pretty sure it still is the when you go to the robots page on BattleBots, I believe that still is the 2018 season picture where Sawblaze is driving you across the box in a blur.
The funniest thing is the Netflix started sending broadcasting that season of BattleBots.
And is it that picture as well? Yes,
of course.
There you go. Hey, look, I think if I remember correctly, it was a very good fight, and you gave them a good run for their money, which
it was. It's like we opened our robot and it was like, okay, he missed this. Pre-cover was still smoking by this much. So it's like if they do like 1 or 5 seconds additional grinding, he could have won. Judges' decision.
Could have
wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, could have been.
Could have been. Could have, would have.
Yeah.
Ifs and buts, candy and nuts.
Absolutely.
All right.
Let's talk about some fights for this week's episode.
What episode was this again?
14. Number 14.
I know, we're really close now.
Interesting bit going into like the last couple of episodes. Chris wasn't there for commentary.
Mm-mm.
Like Chris was doing NFL stuff at the time, so all of this has been dubbed over.
Wow.
Like when there a couple of like behind the scenes stuff, Pete was doing a couple of the interviews like post fights, and they dubbed out afterwards to put Chris and Kenny in there, and they had to make sure they tell them don't say Pete because otherwise we're going to cut this out. So just behind the scenes bit from the crew that was there.
Amazing.
Yeah. And Kenny held his own, you know. It was just him all alone by that side of the box, and he did all right, you know.
There were a lot of moments where obviously they zoomed quite close in on Kenny to cut out Pete, I assume. So yeah, that was a little bit more noticeable.
Yeah.
Well, let's start with fight number 1.
Yeah.
Which, oh boy, the big boy fight.
Yeah.
Big boy number 3.
Oh man.
Starchild sure did get the big boy treatment.
Starchild got absolutely trashed in this
immediately. Yeah, it was. This was a tough watch. Since we all love Brandon, we all love that team, and this was hard to watch. But Jonathan, you know, this is the huge we've always waited to see, and I mean, here we are at the end of the season. These two bots are on completely different sides of the spectrum record wise,
I do wonder. So my thing I'm going to say is I wonder if, knowing Starchild were 0-3 going into this fight, and obviously they've got to go and fight huge. I wonder if Brandon, because he kept those wheels spinning. I wonder if he said, "You know what, Jonathan, just go in, give it a good going over."
There was a lot of discussion between them before the episode because we tried interviewing both Jonathan and Brandon on that Sunday, and they were unavailable because they were busy talking to each other most of the time. So there was a lot of discussions beforehand.
I mean, Tim, what did you reckon of Fuge in this fight? It is quite the beast, isn't it?
Yeah, there's nothing much you can do except for building a huge-esque robot yourself. But then, yeah, Huge was on a roll.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's been fearsome all season, hasn't it?
Yeah, I remember sitting in the we were all three of us were in the high five section for this fight. And I do remember saying at the time this looked like two big wheelchairs fighting each other, like two medieval wheelchairs fighting each other. It's just a very odd scene to see such tall machines with big wheels. I mean, it's almost like fighting in a mirror a little bit. But unfortunately, one mirror's fighting one person in the mirror is fighting a little harder and getting more of the hits in, maybe getting cut a little more.
It was that early hit that took off the bracket at the back, so the weapon was hitting the floor throughout. Brandon could not get up to speed at all in that fight.
The other one for me that kind of illustrated just the difference between these two, obviously they were both running the Tegris wheels, and Huge. At one point, the Tegris on Starchild is just like it kind of folds over.
It sort of melts.
You know when you watch like a nature documentary or something, and then like you see an animal like break their leg, and you're like, oh god, like that's not meant to happen. And it's like they try and run away and they can't because they just can't put their leg down. And
you're saying we need Attenborough to commentate on this?
I think so. I think so. Get him out there. David Attenborough would love to commentate on BattleBots, I reckon. Yeah,
that would be cool.
It would be. Yeah. It would just for one fight.
Yeah,
Greg, make it happen. I want to see it happen.
Do it.
Yeah, brutal, absolutely brutal display from Huge and Starchild. I mean, they've had a rough go of it this season. You know, robots that didn't really suit them.
Yeah, it's another robot that really doesn't suit their style of opponent, is it?
No, it suits the opponent rather well.
Yeah,
but I mean, it was this was very sad to watch because I mean, coming into the season, you're very up on a new-ish machine, you know, where we've seen this robot do pretty well at the lower weight class, and you know, it's just a shame that it didn't translate well to, at least in this iteration, didn't translate well to a heavy. I'm sure Brandon is hard at work trying to figure out how to make this thing have a higher combat potential. You know, because it's the worst feeling in the world to go into the box and have everything that you've designed and everything that you've worked on not pan out the way that you thought it would. But I know he's a smart guy and there's a smart team, so they'll get back at it, and hopefully there's a bright future for Starchild. I mean, aside from the light that we lost in this fight, I mean, that one won't shine as bright. That one won't shine as brightly anymore.
No, no,
it won't.
No.
0-4. I'm guessing not in the bracket, but you never know. The selection committee might,
Come on,
it's
Sam.
Not looking great.
We love them, but we're not completely stone-brained.
No. Huge, however, is 4-0.
Yeah.
Now, that makes it the second 4-0 team this season after Quantum.
Mm-hmm.
Again, who would have thought that at the start of the season? Like those two being the 4-0 teams.
They're a nice duo, aren't they, at 4-0?
How do you say?
Yeah, I mean, where would you put them? It has to be like sort of top 5, right?
I would have said like top four. They should be the leading robot in their bracket in like their quadrant.
Maybe, yeah. I feel like a couple of their fights are against bots that are kind of barely in or either right out. So Shatter, we'll see them later in this episode. Actually, in the next fight. But their season hasn't gone to plan. Neither has Blip. Neither has Fusion and Starchild. No. So really, if you're huge, you're 4-0, but you've gone up against robots that maybe haven't had the best of seasons. So does that hurt their bracket ranking? Possibly. But it's hard to not put them at least near the top 5 or in the top 5 at bare minimum. So
yeah,
food for thought for the selection committee, I think.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, you kind of said Shatter's in the next fight, so Tim is ominous.
Tim is indeed ominous.
Talk us through it. What from your perspective? I mean, from what I saw in the fight, I thought it was pretty even, and it was better than I remembered watching it back. But talk us through it.
Because I was there and I experienced it live, and I had a different recognition of the fight as well. But like the first hit of Shatter just went through the tiny yellow access hatch,
just in,
and which smacked it. It wouldn't even went through, but it just hinged right on top of the drive motor and just smacked it, which stopped one of the drives from working. So we were a 2-wheel drive, omnidirectional, normal robot from that first hit.
It's a pinpoint shot from Eric with that hammer.
Yeah,
that's a good
shot. So that was it was a very 1 in a million shot, and it hit it twice. So
twice
the
in a
second
million
hit, he went
through 2.5 million.
Yeah,
1 million. Yeah.
But it's also looking much better now.
1.5 million.
No, but it apart from that, I think we proved that it was still very mobile, just on 2 wheels, but just not the front being the front. Yeah, that's the only problem we had, because the disc was working beautifully. The couple of times Shatter went over the disc, we left some nice gashes underneath the nice billet chassis. It's just the 1 wheel. Yeah.
I mean, look, honestly, considering the season you've had so far, would you say this is your best fight? Because, I mean, I thought it was. I mean, obviously the damage at the start was frustrating, but the fact that you did keep it going for 3 minutes and it was, the weapon was working beautifully throughout. Were you happy with this one?
We were. Because the weapon was working, the Shreemac was working, we stayed on 3 wheels. We were doing damage. We weren't as mobile as we could have been. But it was doing great. We just lost. That's it.
We did have another listener question from Bravado BattleBots on Facebook, who asks, did you consider appealing the Shatter fight decision? It felt close enough for me to do so.
No, because he went through the access hatch, he broke one of the motors, and we were like, okay, Adam is just being nice enough to chase us, but because otherwise we will just have to, I don't know, because our front was not the front, the drum was not being actively driven towards the opponent, it was just being sort of dragged along. So all the hits we got on Shatter were mainly Adam's work, because he drove into it. There were a couple of shots that we actually managed to hit him, but we weren't doing the damage we could have done. Let's say.
Yeah.
So my recognition of the fight was it was very one-sided, and looking back at it, it was like it was pretty even.
Yeah.
Like Shatter was
even
not happy
only afterwards seeing it on TV.
Yeah, correct. Shatter was definitely not happy. Like they kept getting either caught on the floor or something. It wasn't, particularly pleased at all.
It's just afterwards. It's like we were having similar drive issues.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But he had four functioning wheels, and I had 2.
Yeah, that's true. Well, he started with more.
And magnets.
He cheats.
And magnets.
Yeah.
He started with more.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have to
just removed a wheel.
I do wonder as well. I do wonder whether, him driving at you in the way that you kind of mentioned, I wonder if that's him kind of trying to make the fight as exciting and as interesting as he can, because he knows ultimately this is his last chance. And
yes.
There was a lot of talk before the fight, whether, is Shatter going to get in the bracket, which, I mean, we'll get to it in a second, but I feel like that was his only option. He had to go at you and try and make the fight as interesting as he could. And, credit to him, it was an interesting fight. But
yeah, that was it. That was it. He had to.
Yeah, he had to.
And to have some sort of a convincing win, he had to. Yeah.
Yeah. It does leave you at 1-3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you were offered a 1-3 record with the robots you had at the start of the season, would you have been happy with that, or were you slightly disappointed?
Because we knew our schedule in advance, and we're like, okay, Cloud Viper, if he's like the robot he was previous years, we could win. Mm-hmm. Shredded Bro, we saw driving around the arena, is like we should win. Mm-hmm. Switchback, it's like we have a high chance of winning, and the most interesting fight would be Ominous and Shatter.
Yeah,
just because it would be 2 omnidirectional robots. Mm-hmm. And Ominous being fully functional would be very nice to see. Shatter being fully functional would be very nice to see. But somehow Shatter couldn't get the traction down in the first couple of fights. And he had the 2 in a million lucky hits. So it could have been a lot better and a lot more. Mm-hmm. So at the end it was like, okay, 2-2 would be doable, mm-hmm. but 1-3 was kind of disappointing. But mainly because of being all the little things that went wrong, right, and the lucky hits.
Yeah, fair, completely fair. I do have to. Another thing that kind of irks me about this episode in particular, I do wonder about the narrative that they're kind of pushing with the show, because throughout the entire build-up of the fight, there was, Ominous is at 1-2. Even if they win, they're probably not going to get in the bracket. I'm like, I mean, it's a bit harsh, but yeah. I feel like if you're beating Shatter and beating Shatter well, there's no reason not to take you, in my opinion, because the Claw Viper fight was pretty exciting and fun. Yeah. Okay, yes, the Shredded Bro fight wasn't good. We've just talked about that already. But again, the Switchback one was short but sweet. You did damage to the Switchback, who has proven to be a formidable opponent to other people as well. So I don't know, that kind of irked me a little bit. I'm not sure I like that at all.
Kind of pre-charging the narrative a little bit and kind of maybe leaking out some things of maybe if Ominous doesn't make the bracket, don't be surprised. But it's I don't know. That's more on show writers and stuff like that.
Of course.
It's hard. It's hard to get everything right, and get everything in line.
It's a TV show.
Yes,
it's a TV show.
We're talking about it now. They're doing their job, right? Why are we saying oh, Ominous got left out? Oh,
it's one of the fights later in this episode had the same narrative. It's for me or as a competitor, it was just a fight, one of the 4 fights,
right,
of the opponent. But the whole building up is okay. TV.
What about Shatter? Is it enough?
Well, let's see. Their record is 1-3. Mm-hmm. Losses come to Huge, Beta, Horizon, and the win against Ominous. Mm-hmm. Same argument applies with how they've said if Ominous might leave out the bracket. They beat Ominous, who is a bubble team, let's say. That's a fair point. And then Huge had an incredible season. Beatus had a really good season too, and we'll see them later.
We will indeed.
And Horizon, who we'll also see in the next fight, hasn't had the greatest of seasons, but has improved fight on and fight on.
Mm-hmm.
Is it enough? I don't know. At the time, I didn't think so. But when the bracket comes out, we'll see. But it's tough for me to put Shatter in, and we love the team bots.
I mean, hang on. There we go. I'm getting the scarf out. I'm doing.
You're gonna show your fandom. Okay.
No. There we go. I've just ruined some of the threads. There we go. We'll put the scarf on.
We'll put it back together. Yeah. I mean, I think if they're gonna make it, they'll just scrape in. They'll be the 32. I think that's about where I'd put them. It's too hard to put them any higher. They haven't had the best of seasons, but you know what? I mean, last year we had a 31 run all the way to the Final Four. So who knows? Maybe they could turn up the heat, and maybe the regular season is just just in the past now, and they're gonna look forward and just run the table. But it hasn't been the best of seasons.
No, I think the issue that Shatter have is they needed to turn up in this fight and absolutely trash you, Tim, and I don't think they did enough for me personally. As we've said,
they needed a knockout, did they not? I feel like
not even that. Just like if it's 3 minutes of just peppering Ominous, there's holes everywhere. Yeah. Like it's still working, but there's nothing. There's no aggressive threat from Ominous. Then fair enough. But this wasn't that. I don't think.
They did get those really good couple hits on that critical spot. So I mean, depends on how much they value that.
That one critical spot.
It's. And Shatter's been around for a bit. They've kind of built up a legacy of being one of the premier hammerbots in the league. So
if they get in, it's on their legacy, in my opinion. Yeah. But we'll see when bracket time rolls around.
Yeah, which is soon.
Yeah, next week. It's next week.
I know.
Very exciting. Well, you mentioned. There you go. It's on the t-shirt.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Horizon and Triton. First of all, I did enjoy the modifications that Triton made with the kind of wedge plate across their pulley to try and stop the Horizon discs getting at Triton. Triton itself struggling to spin up throughout, I felt. And it was really strange because Triton lost the side of drive quite early on. Horizon then hits it on the other side, which kills that side, but the other side then comes back to life. Whatever they did, loosened the other side of drive. It might have just been locked up. I don't know. I haven't dug around enough. But
Impact's the best lubricant.
Yeah, apparently so. And then Horizon just got crumpled up. Eventually Triton does get the weapon spun up quite a lot, and it is a fearsome thing when it gets going and crumples the drive of Horizon.
But I don't think they spun it up themselves.
Do you not think so?
Because I was looking at the footage this morning again, and it was it's one of the hits of Triton, and then that just spins up the top. But I'm not sure. But
they were having serious torque issues with that weapon.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. It's interesting because I actually only found out today that the top bit of Horizon isn't motorized. It's just free spinning. I didn't realize this until today. Yeah. So that shows that the attention I've been paying. But look, two robots that are kind of awkward, so awkward to fight because they have so much reach. They're kind of trying to outreach each other, and I don't know. It was an interesting chess game, but
it was
ultimately Triton coming out on top with. Another win, 2 wins back to back now for Triton.
Yeah, it's been quite a turn for them. I mean, their season didn't start out, spectacularly.
No,
considering their loss to Lucky and then their disemboweling from Copperhead. But then they put together 2 really nice wins. A very gutsy win against Glitch, who was trying to get their season back on track, and then this win against a rookie that we've underestimated, but has proven to be. Really tricky to fight. But it just wasn't meant to be. I mean, you got a heavyweight that basically has the drive of a. It's like they put it's like the drive of a middleweight on top of this huge scaffolding or underneath this huge scaffolding piece. but yeah, it was a cool experiment. Will it come back? I don't know. It was a fun bot to see. I feel like it's a cool thing to see on TV. But it just didn't perform probably the way that Josh thought it would.
I think the issues with Horizon is the density.
I don't think that
is different at beetleweight scale than it is to heavyweights. There's so
it
much.
Doesn't scale up as nicely. Yeah.
No, definitely not. As much as cool as it is to see something like this in the arena, and credit to the team for trying it. It doesn't quite, as you said, scale the same way as a lot of other designs do, and
it does scale, but then you have to have like the 2 discs be able to spin up in like 0.5 seconds, just to have like the big inertial load to spin up the top. But I don't think they have enough power.
No. I suppose it's probably hard to get that level of power it like all the way over here and then spinning masses that weigh as much as the discs do. Horizon at 1 and 3, I'm also probably not. I don't think so. I don't think the way they get Shatter is enough.
Yeah.
Triton at 2 and 2 have recovered well.
Yeah.
The issue,
not the best showing in a final fight though.
No, well, and I think the other issue,
a knockout still.
The issue Triton have is their opponents.
Yeah.
For me, because obviously Horizon, he has won against Shatter, some would say controversially, but they still won. The other 3 fights didn't go to plan at all for Horizon. And then Triton's other win coming against Glitch, who we'll talk about a bit later on, but at this point was 0-3. And, it's not a glittering CV for Triton. They might get in on the basis that they're, level. But, as they do mention in the episode, that there are some 1 and 3 teams with ridiculous strength of schedules, and we'll see. It's definitely a bubble team.
Yeah, I feel like it would be a shame if they didn't make it, because they've had some very entertaining fights.
And it has got so much better.
There's a lot of potential in this team, and they've gotten so much better as the fights have gone on. I feel like this 4th fight hurts them a little bit, but then again, they've had a rough go. This bot's been through a lot. Maybe a little bit more armor in some places would have helped, but they wouldn't do it. I know they wouldn't. It's not the spirit of the game with this team.
Definitely
but it's a really nice showing for a bot that it's coming from a bot that was just pure chaos on 2 wheels and deemed unsafe in Deep 6 to just say, okay, let's just take that bar and rotate it 90 degrees and say, let's go again. Let's be Tombstone without Tombstone being there. It was nice to see a nice big bar spinner. I feel like it would have felt a little bit more empty had there not been a bot,
of this ilk,
like of this ilk, very, very much so.
Well, it did fancy dress as Tombstone for Halloween, didn't it?
Yeah, that's a neat trivia fact for you.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
4th fight, Bloodsport and Beta.
Yeah. This one got all of. I think this one got me.
Really?
So I guess maybe I forgot about the Rotator Beta fight and how effective Beta was at being a tank against horizontals.
Wedge,
Yes, honestly.
It's a perfect wedge. Perfect wedge.
I don't know what the heck I was thinking, but Beta is. I mean, it's everything. It's everything we thought it would be coming back finally. It's this wonderful tanky wedge robot with a hammer that
that fires.
It's beautiful work
at the right time.
Yeah, he waits for good hits and he gets them when he wants them. It was a really good knockout dragout fight. I'm very pleased. I mean, maybe not for Bloodsport. I feel like they would have wanted a win here. Now being at 2 and 2 is a little scary. Figuring out their ranking, I feel like they'll be lower than they wanted to be. But this was a good fight. I don't know what you guys thought.
I thought this was the best fight of the week, personally.
Honestly,
it deserves to be fight of the week. It was a really good fight. This, because it's just showing everything that Beast needed to do from the rotator fight and more. Like it shows why Jason being on the team was so good.
Yeah, Tim. I don't know what you thought, but like for me, this is what I've been waiting for Beta since 2016. This is it. This is
because the previous year, we had the big electromagnets on the bottom. I don't know if they still had them, probably had. But then the whole issue was, okay, they have to stand still to be able to pull down in order to hit. And I think they just gave up on that idea of being able to stand still or being able to being sucked down to the floor, and just went for it. So yes, perfect.
One thing I did enjoy was Bloodsport's little decoration on the top of the head. Did you see?
Yes, that alpha symbol.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. And I also did enjoy as well the little segment that BattleBots actually put in about the telemetry stuff.
Yes, that was good text.
More of that. I want more of that stuff. Like, I want to see, Team
Bloodsport's been doing that for a bit. Yeah,
Bloodsport was our pit neighbor.
All right.
And the guy responsible for the telemetry was doing his programming just right next to our table. And I was like, let's go.
Did you ever look through it?
I want one.
I was going to say, was any inspiration for future omnibuses?
Yeah. It's like complete animation of the robots, every temperature, every current, oh my god, it was so awesome.
Yeah, it's the Rolls Royce of the BattleBots field at the moment, where it just has all the bells and whistles.
It's just really nice to nerd out with it, really.
Yeah. 100%. It's them. There's a couple teams that do it. I know Ribot has telemetry.
Yeah,
it's nice to see teams really getting stuck in with this fact. I mean, it's a 3-minute fight, but those 3 minutes could be an eternity, and it's nice to know, especially for how expensive these machines are. If there's something in your robot, like say you're running your weapon, especially when we've seen past fights with Bloodsport where they'll just spin their weapon down and be like, well, why are they doing that? Well, they're keeping an eye on their currents, they're keeping an eye on their temperatures, they're trying to survive not only this fight but also the tournament. They're trying to be as cost effective as possible.
It's very much like a race pit crew, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's like, do you need to manage your tires, or like you need to save fuel?
Yeah, you can't just go full
my
bore.
Tires here.
Yeah,
no, but that's also one of the advantages of having more team members.
Yeah.
So if you have a driver and a weapons operator and someone who's pushing the buttons at the corner for the hammers, they have 3 people just watching a screen, seeing everything. Make use of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It gives everyone a purpose, and they've it's clearly worked for them up to this point.
Yeah.
Beta, but 3-1.
Yeah, very impressive season.
I mean, obviously, the last time we saw them in 2020, they went 3-0 in the preseason. Their fights on that occasion were Rotator, which was a controversial win, but they did dominate the fight, a win nonetheless. Rusty and Grabot, who I don't want to say are gimme wins, because nothing is a gimme win in BattleBots, but as close to as they probably could have got. This season has not been that. Kraken has had a difficult season, but it clearly hits hard, as we saw in their fight. Shatter, Black Dragon, and now Bloodsport. That is a serious resume.
I think this is their best season run so far, even including 2016.
Oh,
really? It's been really impressive.
Yeah. I think
their schedule definitely got harder as it went. I mean, their first 2 fights, Kraken's first fight seems like an eternity ago. But that robot was not happy or ready to fight. Wasn't by Matt's wasn't because of anything that Matt did or did not do. It's just that Kraken just was not very happy to fight that moment. And then Shatter, their season hasn't gone great. So, but then they had these last 2 fights, a fight against Black Dragon, that one misstep, put them upside down, and then this really nice rebound against Bloodsport. So it's been a wonderful turnaround. And we just lost Tim.
We'll keep an eye out if he's still in the call. He's just not.
Oh, he's still here. Okay, good.
There you go.
Okay, good. I was nervous. Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's like being back in Vegas all over again.
Bloodsport at 2-2. I think they also probably do get in. Their losses to Beta, who's had a good season, and Copperhead has had a good season.
They've had a rough run. Bloodsport. So
they had a rough start.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Really rough start. That's a rebuild
catching your
that
hair
whole
on
head.
fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tough stuff. But 2-2. I think they're going to be pretty comfortably in there. Maybe not a high seed like they have been in the past, but certainly not something you want to be fighting straight out the gate. I don't think.
I'd say early 20s probably. around.
I would think
that
so
range.
too. Early 20s is about where I'd put them.
Yep.
Yeah, that's about right.
Absolutely. Moving on. Well, we mentioned Kraken a little bit. They take on Mammoth.
Yeah.
It's driving so much better.
It was going better though this time.
It was.
It really was
They
working.
weren't using the arm, so it helped.
I was going to say, they went
that's
full
true.
vert, didn't they? They just thought, right, do you know what? Let's stick the weapon out in front and see what happens.
There are
swear-
nice four-wheel drive vert in this configuration.
Yeah.
I swear Matt was trying to Kit Kat Mammoth. I swear if he got that main strut in the middle and just split it.
Yeah.
I think that was
he
the
fully
plan.
went for it. And he fit so nicely.
He did.
Just slots in there.
Mammoth once again using the 1/2 UHMW, 1/2 Tegris arm.
Frankenstein trunk.
Yeah.
Towards the end, everything all kind of kicked off, didn't it? You know, all of this, you can see so much rubber on the floor where Kraken has just shredded its tires and has no grip at all. It can't get anywhere. And then Mammoth dies on one side as well at the same time. It was a proper chaotic end.
Yeah.
But Mammoth really did do well at keeping Kraken away from most of the sensitive bits. They probably took a few impacts, but they used the arm well, in my opinion.
Yeah. I got to say, it's watching this fight back, and we look back at the rule review that we've had. How do you determine whether or not Mammoth is corralling or not? Because you got to back a whole square up, but it's so
this
big.
was a discussion we had during recording.
You know what I mean? Like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, it's a tricky
I mean, they
one.
do back away, but I mean, once Kraken's wheels are gone, I mean, they're just kind of playing with their food, aren't they, Mammoth? You know, it's Kraken's not going
I think
anywhere.
It looks worse than it is because of how things are looking for both robots.
Yeah, Mammoth is just an ungamely beast, isn't it?
It is,
and fighting for a possible, tournament spot. I mean, if they go 2-2 like they did in this fight, I mean, could they scrape in? I mean, their wins are against teams that haven't won. It's it's tricky.
There's still a chance. There's still a chance.
They're a past tournament participant. They're going to be entertaining
twice now.
Yep.
I think for me, I think they have to, right? Because their two wins are stompings of Kraken and Starchild. Starchild didn't even get a touch on it. They were flipping them around like it was nothing. And their two losses, okay, Death Roll is performing reasonably well, has a lot of pedigree and is 2-1 currently.
The Valkyrie fight is closer than that people would have thought, especially like between the unstick and everything in that fight.
Correct.
That was cut out.
Yeah, Mammoth on the bubble. What do you reckon, Tim? Obviously, you know, but at the time, what did you think for Mammoth's chances?
I think they were doing okay.
Yeah.
Not great.
Very political answer.
At least better than we did.
Oh.
As for Kraken, a tough season, 0-4.
Yeah.
Lots of lessons learned.
It's an 0-4, but Matt's happy. I think that's the
this
big
is
thing.
We're in a way different spot from last year. Well, I mean, we're in a different spot from last year, but we're still kind of in the same spot with record, but it feels a little better. It feels like there's a way forward. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, as you would say, metaphorically.
I will say
there's a chance for Kraken to be competitive.
I know we mentioned it when we interviewed Matt earlier this year, but Kraken's last 10 fights have ended in a loss for them.
Yeah,
it's a bad run, isn't it?
That's gonna hurt your sabermetrics if we're talking like we're cutting down to the nitty gritty. Like I'd like to see like how they've lost all those fights, if it's all the same way or if it's different, or if there's any common factor there. But it just hasn't panned out. But it's nice to see them going a different route and showing some success, but they're still learning to be done.
There's work to do, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
100%. Let's talk about the other Omni-Drive vert, I suppose.
Yeah.
Glitch and Valkyrie. I've seen a few comments this week. Well, not even that. In commentary as well. Why aren't Valkyrie attacking Glitch? The thing is, if they do just hit Glitch while it's dead, which it looked dead at the time, then that's what everyone complained about with Riptide. And you can't have it both ways. So
no.
I will give Lucy and the Valkyrie team a lot of credit for holding back and kind of just seeing first if Glitch was actually mobile or not.
There's a nice post the team have put up as well that Glitch were actually being counted out. That was cut out during this fight. And then they got moving again in that time frame. So it's a little bit of shenanigans kind of editing around them being counted out, I guess. But it makes sense why you wouldn't go into Glitch when it's like nigh on dead, because it's killed robots before doing that.
I mean, as we've seen before, Glitch's weapon is ferocious, and Valkyrie's weapon
broken by the end of this fight.
That egg beater will not beat eggs anymore.
No, it
won't. That's split in an interesting way.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see who gets that on eBay, if it goes on eBay.
That's going.
I have a couple of ideas.
That's going on
100%.
eBay.
100%. It's a shame to see Glitch suffering that way. I mean, okay, I have to ask as well, because seeing the success of Glitch last year, Tim, I have to ask, like, was there a fear that, you guys don't get invited back? Because obviously you are so similar in terms of the concepts of the robot, big weapon in the front and, strange drive basically is the, yeah.
If Glitch ever fixes their drive issues, I don't know how, I think with our Omni wheels, we got a lot of Omni envy by at least the Glitch team, and even Adam from Shatter. He was like, I'm going to use those wheels next year.
Yeah,
because they're so much chunkier.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Glitch tried to make their own rollers for the wheels.
Yeah,
and they would survive exactly the couple of meters from the starting point to the starting square.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would be like either down to the aluminium or not making contact anymore, because they were always having drive issues. Even like previous year, they would like, it's like, this is not, I know how an omnidirectional robot should move. This is not it.
Yeah.
And even if and having the big egg beater in front, that's perfect, but be able to move.
You've still got to point it at people at the end of the day, and if your drive doesn't allow you to do that, then you're in trouble.
They were having lots of issues because they were our other next. So we had Shatter next to us, Bloodsport. I think it was free shipping and Glitch. So those were our neighbor, and Minotaur.
Yep.
And they were working every day. There were like 8 people working on 2 robots all day, all night.
They are the team that doesn't sleep.
Lots of issues.
Yeah, it's not just a TV bit. They are that bot. Anytime we went to do, in a couple days we did media. Anytime we passed by their pit, that bot was always apart.
I remember catching Kyle after one of the sessions, outside. He is just exhausted. I think he's ready to go to bed.
It's a real thing.
Some say he's still sleeping now.
He probably is. I think he just goes into hibernation at the end of every season and then just comes back in.
There's just a cubby hole at UC Berkeley where they just put him, store him, and pop him out again when he's ready.
but they also had the problem that they had like 2 sets of teammates doing their midterms at different times and switching.
I do wonder how that must have affected just how the robot worked, right? Because they have to have so many people. Like obviously, everyone in the team has their role. Obviously, depending on if you have 2 people like yourself or 3 people as it was, or 16 people like the Glitch team do, right?
Yeah.
Everyone knows what their jobs are, or they have to have some basic understanding of what their machine is meant to be doing. Yeah. If you've got that much turnover of team, like that quickly as well, and the robot's not working, of course,
yeah, you can't have everybody know everything about the robot, especially when there's that big of a team. Or maybe that's a weakness. It's sometimes there's a weakness of having too many people, too many hands in the pot, where not everybody has all the same experiences, or it's because if. I don't understand how it's possible to have that many team members and have the bot always be just barely making it each and every time, where you have other teams that just I don't know. Maybe it's just overcomplicated, and I'm digging too deep.
It is a complicated robot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's a 4-wheel drive. It has I think suspension on the rear too to make it be able to better drive. Custom motors, magnets installed. 2 motors running the egg beater, every controller It's a really complex robot, so
Mm-hmm.
being able to run it at all is also already a
Good
big
achievement.
milestone.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Except for a team that's all so young as well. They're all,
Exactly.
18, 19, 20. It's crazy.
Yeah.
They just need to conquer running upside down. I feel like if this bot could run upside down, it'd be. I mean, that's just it, though. I mean, this is I mean, we've said it before. This robot's the master of drunken fist. It can look like it has no idea what it's doing, or where it's going, and then it can just punch you in the mouth, and you're in serious trouble.
Out. You're KO'd.
Sadly, though, it has gone 0-4 this season, which,
yeah,
I mean, what a turnaround from last year where they won their first 7 fights in a row, and then since then they've lost 5 in a row. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, they've still got a winning record overall, but they're not in the bracket. There's
careened
no
off
way
a
they're
cliff
in
a
the
little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about Valkyrie? 2-2.
Valkyrie's tricky.
And
they're on the bubble.
Once they lost their fork, I mean, I think they ripped their own fork off again.
Yeah.
We've
talked about. Why is it on that side where it gets sucked in?
Put it on the back. I think that would be a much better idea.
Something very rotatory, you know?
Yeah, just stick one on the back. When it did have the fork ripped off, they just went to town. It was the damage caused to glitch was
like
incredible.
Took the muzzle off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have they done enough? It's 2-2. Nearly 3-1.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the appeal and subsequent change for against Malice.
Mm-hmm. Enough. I think they're definitely on the bubble. They're gonna see how those 1 and 3s turn out by the end of next week.
Yeah,
I think so. It's weird to see that Valkyrie going from the most destructive robot 2 years ago is now like a bubble bracket team. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, they've also has like a new weapon drive, and they're trying new stuff. So
yeah, they are.
Yeah,
new team captain.
Been a lot of overhaul.
There's been some change, So
much like the glitch team, as we said, you change a lot of the formula, and suddenly it doesn't quite go the same way as it did before. So
it's like V2 is not always the better one. Yeah,
correct. Absolutely. Well, main events.
Well, we're here. Oh, was this drummed up for the whole episode? Was this shoved down your throat enough?
It was more like the whole.
He hasn't been knocked out, and the bot that knocks everything out
during the whole fight night, and like me and Steve being at recording, knowing how this fight goes, and knowing how they're hyping this up for a week, like whenever the Black Dragon was on, I was like, "Uh-oh." I see where this is going.
First thing to say is, regardless of how this fight turned out, getting a non-knockout streak of, is it 24 fights?
24. I think it's 24 fights, wasn't
25 is by far, I guess, yeah.
What an incredible achievement from Black Dragon, such an unbelievable robot. We've seen it, as we've seen in the highlight packages, driving against Ribot for 2 minutes on fire. What a fabulous,
still winning.
A fabulous piece of equipment, and credit to all the people that have worked on that robot for the past 4 years.
Yeah.
But Paul breathes a sigh of relief.
He does. And I don't think he'll ever be broken. I really don't.
No.
Riptide's good, isn't it?
It feels like, I don't know, it felt like a bit of a driving error from Black Dragon, to be honest. I felt like they were trying to warm up into this fight, and Riptide was just, no, let's go directly in for the kill straight away. And that was it.
That's their strategy. It is literally smash your fist with my fist. It's not even my face, because it's a totally offensive robot. It's not like Duck, where
Riptide is just an absolute monster and a terror to society this season. It really is. Was there anything Black Dragon could have done, or was this just a case of the
equipment just needs to go head on? I don't think that's the only way you've got to tackle Riptide. You've just got to go head on.
Even then, because we've discussed this before, the width of the weapon of Riptide is that they've got to rely on spinning faster than Riptide. Riptide's
Black Dragon's weapon doesn't stick out far enough to contact the weapon before their weapon contacts any part of the body. You know what I mean?
And I don't think the Black Dragon weapon does the whole 250 miles an hour.
No, it doesn't. I think it's just
way slower.
Yeah. I don't know. It's apparently, I've been told. Obviously, the reason why Black Dragon lost. Well, obviously, I think it was going to lose anyway. It wasn't. It wasn't actually dead. So the reason why it was counted out, it was high centered on the armor that was peeled away on the one side. That side's drive was still working. So
interesting.
So on another day in history, maybe it carries on. Maybe they do equal Bite Force's record, but not to be on this occasion.
And maybe lose a judge's decision.
Yeah,
like this.
I mean,
this wasn't.
Maybe
gonna be all right.
lose a judge. Riptide, as much as there's so much that can be said about Riptide and everyone's feelings on it, but ultimately, it's a scary robot. It's so good.
It's daft, isn't it?
It's so good.
It is the new daft robot. Honestly,
Yeah.
It just goes in, does its business, and then leaves with doggy bag in hand. I'll take this with me. It's just plain ferocum, fearsome, ferocious. I think I just mixed words together.
That's what level it is at the moment, right?
It's daft, and it is a sure, definite threat for the nut. I mean, that's the easiest quote I'll ever have to say. It is a threat. It is the threat.
Is it going to be the 1 seed? Yes or no? No,
I don't think so. I mean, it's possible. It's possible.
I'll let Steve go first.
It comes down to who they fought. I feel like Riptide is hindered by who they fought. Where a fight that happens next week, which they also talked about at the very end of the episode. I feel like the fights against Glitch and Captain Shredrader are going to hurt. It's hurt it a little bit, but the fact that it destroyed Glitch coming into this season, Glitch was a co-rookie of the year that Riptide was not very happy to share. Not a sharing bot, not a sharing team. But hey, that's fair. And then going up against Mad Catter, and just every time that Riptide goes into the box, no matter who they fight, it's one-way traffic, as you would say, Sam. There's just when you go in, there's no chance. That's what they want you to feel, is there's no chance you're coming out in one piece or winning this fight. But yeah, I feel like their schedule hurts them, but I feel like they're still a top 2. I feel like they're a solid 2. I think there's another bot that if next week they lose, Riptide's the one. But if they win,
I think regardless, whoever wins the main event next week is the 1 seed.
They're the 1 seed. I think that's how they're literally. We can write the script for next week, and that is how they're going to be hyping up the episode, saying that whoever wins that is the 1 seed.
Yes.
So congratulations, Riptide, on that 2.
On that 2.
a solid 2. No one's taking that from them, honestly.
No.
Yeah.
I feel with the way that the schedules were, written out, and the way that it's ended kind of perfectly. Where that we're going to have basically a fight for the 1 seed next week, but
agreed.
No slouch at the 2 seed if that's what Riptide ends up getting.
Nope.
It's
Black Dragon at 2-2. Just to finish off with them, a decent enough record, but beating Monsoon, beating Beta, the 2 Britbots. The other Britbot they did lose to in Quantum, and Riptide obviously they lost to tonight. 2 4-0 teams beat them, but I mean, what can you say? They lost to 2 teams that have had perfect.
They've had another decent run. They are hard, as we know. They are a very hard robot to kill. They're in because the producers all know that they can get their robot ready in time, so that helps them no end.
It does, yeah.
Well,
what do you think, Tim? Do you think Black Dragon's a pretty solid middle of the pack considering their record this season? Do they end up in the the higher end of the 16 or
it's pretty. It's proven to be really, really unkillable. I've seen it driving around in flames more than driving normally.
That's the way you're supposed to drive. That's the idea. It works for me well.
It works, and they have 2 or 3 robots ready, so different front ends, different weapons. They're very configurable to each opponent, so they're in.
Yeah,
no doubt.
I'll be very curious to see who their first round fight is against, because that'll be telltale to see how far they get, of course, but I feel like they're a solid.
They're guaranteed a good fight, aren't they? Let's face it, whoever they're going to fight, it's going to be something pretty special, because for the last couple of years it has been. That brings us to the end. Tim, we have one final listener question for you before we let you go. It comes from a user Guff on Discord.
Not Gruff. Guff.
Not Gruff. Guff. And they ask, they say, after Ominous's unlucky season of Gremlins with the bot here and there causing issues for a lot of its qualifying fights, Do you think the robot would be accepted again for World Championship 8 if it applied? And what are you going to be changing to make it so?
I hope we're being considered again for season 8. We do have a lot of changes in mind. Magnets is one. Just to compensate for the lack of traction we have. And we're trying to see if we can fit in a different streamer mechanism. Because the current one goes forward slowly. And the going forward part limits us with the front configuration. Because we cannot run anything longer than set distance.
Yeah, you've got to make sure you
because
can
otherwise we can't remake anymore.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So we're probably gonna do like a sideways, and I don't know if it's independent or because it's all. If it's independent, it's also fun for TV.
Of course.
And it's a TV show, so yeah,
exactly.
And we're probably gonna ditch the hub motor.
Oh, all that talk about the hub motors being cool.
They are cool, but the main disadvantages, especially with the drive configuration we now have and the big heavy disc on the front, is that 60% of the weight is in the front. Every time we hit something, we tumble. So one way of getting so we're gonna change the wheelbase a little bit. So it's going to be a little bit wider, but much more longer, like the improvements I think Witch Doctor did this season.
Yeah, they definitely chaffied the robot a little bit.
Exactly, and so adding the motors in the back of the drum also switches it more to the back, and hopefully those combination of things will be better. So no more hydraulic self-rider, just electric. 2 times a Rambi lifter mechanism as a Shremak, because that works.
Tim,
I never considered how much weight's at the front of that robot. Like I feel like I should have known that.
It makes sense. Because together.
That fight against was it Claw Viper, where you guys got to get teed against the wall, and all that weight is just facing the floor. And now it makes a lot of sense as to why that bot just stayed there,
just staring at its life choices.
The thing is, because Steph was doing the Shremak and was like, okay, and he did it a little bit far, and you could see the robot going. And then it was like in a perfect position, because otherwise we could have spin up the drum and then just lowered into the drum. But that's also something we were thinking about, is making something that if it's upside down, the drum is not touching the ground. Then just use the Shremak just to lift it into the drum.
Okay, I like it.
It's mobility.
I suppose.
Yeah.
If it's good enough for Daedalus, it's good.
Trey won't like it, but it's mobility.
That's right. He's got Ripperoni still with the it's all good.
Absolutely. Tim, I'm not just saying this because you're here, but I have to say, Omnus is absolutely one of our favorite robots in the field. It is a joy to look at. It was a pleasure poking around it in Portsmouth as well last year, and I sincerely hope they invite you back, because you guys are wonderful people and you genuinely deserve it. And I think it's a crying shame we haven't seen the best of Omnus this year, and I hope that you get another chance to do so.
Because we've definitely seen it overseas.
We have.
Yep.
It's definitely the potential's in there, but and I want to see it happen. So all the best to you and the best of luck.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
we'll see. We will see.
Hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
With that said, I have been Samuel64.
I've been Steve the American Killjoy.
I've been DavidofSmeg.
Time to bounce.
And the three of us, well, maybe myself and Steve, maybe David, we'll never know. We'll be back next week.
Or Devin.
Twice next week, in fact. We've got the last episode to talk about, and of course, the bracket preview.
Yeah.
So, spicy times ahead. We'll see you then for more BattleBots action. Take care, everyone.
See ya.